In this final lecture of transport layer, we'll discuss an interesting feature of TCP known as congestion control. Before we get into the nitty-gritties of TCP congestion control, let us try to correlate the aspects of network congestion with our normal day-to-day life. Let's first look at the dictionary definition of congestion. What is the definition? It is a situation in which there is too much traffic on the road and movement is difficult. So it is characterized by too much traffic. In networking, it is similar. There is too much data packets in the network, too many data packets in the network. So what happens if congestion occurs? Again, in case of traffic congestion, the effect is that the vehicles are barely able to move. People are stuck in a place for a long duration or the movement is very slow. Similarly, in case of networking, the effect of congestion is the loss of packets. This we have discussed previously also. The intermediate packet switches, the routers in between have limited buffer space. When there are too many packets in the network, this buffer space overflow and as a result, packets get dropped, resulting in packet loss. So this is the situation, the effect in networking. So what are the implications? Say that you want to visit the market and you came to know that there is a congestion on the road through which you normally travel. So you either postpone it for some time till the congestion clears or you plan to go through a different road. And in case of networking, what the sender does is that it slows down the sending of data packets. Slowing down means sending less packets on the network. Clear? So that the congestion does not become more overwhelming. We'll discuss this aspect in more details in this particular lecture. Now, one other aspect would be how would you know that there is a congestion? In real life, you might be informed by someone you know telling you, hey, there is a huge traffic on the road. Or there might be an announcement over the radio. It's something like road X is highly congested, travelers should take an alternative road. This sort of announcements are regularly done. But in case of networking, the internet in particular, unfortunately, no one informs. The intermediate routers are not going to inform the sending nodes that there is a congestion in the network. The sender has to know it by itself somehow. And this is a particularly interesting part of TCP as to how the sending nodes become aware of congestion in the network. So now let us get into the details. We already know what congestion is. A big number of packets moving around the network. And the main action is that the sending node slows down its sending rate. It would not be blasting packets in the network at its full rate, rather it would throttle itself depending on the level of the congestion. But there are questions, big questions. One very important point to note at this point is that in networking, the task of handling congestion is on the sender. In fact, completely on the sender. There is no role of the intermediate routers and there is absolutely no role of the receiver. It is completely on the sender to find out if there is a congestion and then decide on a plan of action if there is a congestion. This it has to do without any help from the intermediate routers or the receivers. Now back to the big question. First question is, how does the sender perceive that there is a congestion without any explicit feedback? In other words, how does it find out that there is a congestion without no one telling it about it? The next question is, if it perceives that there is a congestion, what does it do? We briefly saw that an action is that it limits the sending rate. But how much? At what rate? Now let's get into our first question, the perceiving whether there is a congestion. We already saw that there is no explicit feedback. That means it has to use implicit feedback. It has to infer it from other available information. Let us try to see the things from the sender's perspective. Once it sends a packet onto the network, it either receives an acknowledgement from the receiver or it does not. In the second case, the timer times out, indicating that the acknowledgement is probably not coming. Does these informations, receiving or not receiving acknowledgement, give any indication about congestion? Probably yes. If the sender is receiving an acknowledgement, it can deduce that probably things are okay. That is why packets are getting delivered and acknowledgements are coming. In this case, it can in fact probably try increasing its rate of sending. But if an acknowledgement is not coming, then probably things are not that quite right. In all its probabilities, packets are getting lost. That's why the acknowledgement did not come. And packets getting lost, this is a huge indication of congestion. Now it can decide to slow it down and send less packets. Slow down basically means limit the number of unacknowledged packets, unacknowledged bytes in the pipeline. But slow down how much? To what extent? This is what the value of in this expression of last bytes minus last byte received. We have already seen this expression while discussing flow control. So last byte sent minus last byte acknowledged gives the number of or the amount of unacknowledged bytes in the pipeline. So this expression last byte sent minus last byte acknowledged should be less than equal to some value. This some value is a value which tells the sender that send only this much packet so that congestion can be controlled. Now what should be this sum value? Let us go a little deeper. Just like there is a variable receive window for flow control, which we have discussed in the last lecture, there is a variable known as congestion window, denoted by CWND. This variable is used to handle congestion. This variable is maintained by the sending node for each TCP connection. Each TCP connection means that if there are, say, 5 TCP connections currently for a machine, for each of these 5 connections, this particular variable congestion window is maintained. The value of this variable is set and changed according to the perceived level of congestion. It means if the sender perceives that the congestion is high in the network, then the value is set such that the sending rate can be reduced. Clear? Now coming back to the limiting the amount of data in the pipeline. The value we are looking for is actually this value, this variable which we are calling as congestion window. So look at this expression. Last byte sent minus last byte received is less than equal to this particular variable which we are going to use, this variable which we have denoted as congestion window. Now how to decide on the value of this variable, this we are coming to in a moment. Now remember, while we are discussing flow control, which we have discussed in the last lecture, we saw that the expression there is last byte sent minus last byte received is less than or equal to the receive window. Because TCP has to take care of both congestion control and flow control, that is, it should ensure that neither the network nor the receiver is overwhelmed by its sending rate. The expression actually becomes this: last byte sent minus last byte acknowledged is less than or equal to the minimum value of congestion window and receive window. The minimum of congestion window and receive window. A small example to clear this. Say the congestion window is 64 and the receive window is 32. Okay, 64 and 32. To keep discussion simpler, we are discussing things in terms of number of segments. But remember, actually it is done in terms of number of bytes. But this does not stop us from getting the gist of the matter. Now back to this example. So congestion window is 64 and receive window is 32. It means to avoid getting the network congested, the sender is allowed to send 64 segments, and the receiver buffer can handle only 32 packets currently. The current receive window is 32. So although the sender can pump 64 packets on the network, but because it has to also take care of flow control, and because it has to see that packets are not overflowed in the receiver, it must only send 32 packets and not 64 packets. Clear? Now reverse these values. Say now the congestion window is 32 and the receiver window is 64. Clear? Now, although the receiver is capable of processing 64 packets, I cannot send this number of packets because I am constricted by the congestion window. The congestion window says that if I send more than 32 packets, the network may likely to get congested. So I send not more than 32 packets. Clear? So this expression of sending the minimum, I guess it should be clear. So it's the minimum of both congestion window and receive window. Now we get into the actual methods. So to emphasize the point once again, from the sender's perspective, a timeout is taken as an indication of congestion. A timeout. Timeout occurs when an acknowledgement has not arrived within time. This we have seen. An acknowledgement has not arrived within time, and that happens because a packet has probably got lost. A packet loss most of the times is due to congestion. It is very rare, very rare that a packets get lost due to some other reason. So a packet loss, a timeout, is a sign of congestion. Interestingly, TCP also perceives a congestion if it receives 3 duplicate acknowledgements apart from timeout. Duplicate means, say it has received the acknowledgement for a packet number 5 3 times in a row. Recall that a receiver sends an acknowledgement of a previously correctly received packet when it receives packet out of order. So in this example, the receiver received packet 5 and acknowledged it. It received 5 and acknowledged this packet number 5. Then it was expecting packet number 6, but say it did not receive packet number 6 and it receives packet number 7. So it sent an acknowledgement for packet number 5, remember. Then it received packet number 8, it still not received packet 6, so it again sent an acknowledgement for packet number 5. So as of now, the sender has received 3 acknowledgements for packet number 5. 3 duplicate acknowledgement. And it interprets that there is a congestion. Why? Can you think about it? Can you think why receiving 3 duplicate acknowledgements is a sign of congestion? Okay, we'll get back into this in a moment as we start discussing the actual congestion control techniques. Now there are 4 TCP congestion control algorithms. They are known as slow start, congestion avoidance, fast retransmit, and fast recovery. The older implementations of TCP has only the first 2 techniques. Later implementations have added 3 or all of these techniques. So let's start discussing each one of them. We'll start with slow start. TCP slow start. So at the very beginning, once TCP connection is established, how many packets the sender should send? Can you guess? At the very beginning, assume that the receiver buffer is unlimited, so there is no restriction from the receiver point of view. Remember that the sender has no idea, absolutely no idea about congestion in the network as of now, because it has not yet sent any data packet. Now if it sends a big number of packets at the beginning, what if there is already congestion? There will be many packet loss. The sending of all these packets will go waste. So where it should start? The sending node sends only one packet at start. Yes, only one packet. The congestion window is 1. Means send only one packet. You may wonder, it is an abysmally small number and a huge underutilization of the network capabilities. This sending of a single packet. But we will see that it will reach an optimum level very soon. So the sender starts with sending one packet at the beginning. It is actually a slow start. Sending one packet, value of congestion window is 1. So it is a slow start. Now for every acknowledgement it receives, the congestion window is incremented by 1. That means when acknowledgement for this packet arrives, the congestion window is incremented by 1, which makes it 2. So now it sends 2 packets. Now when acknowledgements are received for these 2 packets, it increments the congestion window by 2, 1 for each acknowledgement. So the sender now sends 4 packets. The value of congestion window is 4. When acknowledgements are received for the 4 packets, incrementing by 1 for each of these packets makes the value of congestion window to be 8. So now the sender can send 8 packets. So you can see that the rate increases very rapidly if the network conditions are favorable. Though we started only with 1 packet, for every RTT epoch, the sending rate is effectively double. So, in a very short amount of time, the sending rate becomes very high. Clear? So, here is a graphical representation of the slow start. You can see the sender starts with sending one single packet, and when the acknowledgement arrives, it increments the congestion window by 1, so now it sends 2 packets. Now when the acknowledgement for these 2 packets arrives, it increments by 1 for each of these acknowledgements. So for this one it has increased 1, and for the other acknowledgement it has increased another 1. So from 1 to 2, from 2 to 4, from 4 to 8, it goes like this. Okay, so it increases exponentially. Now obviously you cannot go on and on like this. At some point of time there would be a congestion, there would be a packet loss. So what happens when there is a packet loss? When there is a timeout. So this exponential growth will continue until a loss is detected. Remember how a loss is detected? It's detected by means of a timeout or by means of receiving 3 duplicate acknowledgements. As soon as loss is detected, that means a timeout occurs, save half the value of current congestion window in a variable known as SS trace, a threshold value. That means SS trace is equal to half of the current congestion window, and after that it goes to another algorithm known as congestion avoidance algorithm. Let's try to understand with an example. So say this is a timeline. So at the starting, it starts with sending 1 packet. Clear? It starts with sending 1 packet. So the congestion window is 1. After it receives the acknowledgement, it sends 2 packets. So the congestion window is now 2. First it was 1, then it is 2. After some time the acknowledgements came for this 2, so the congestion window becomes 4. So it sends 4 packets. Then 8. Then 16. So it is an exponential increase. An exponential increase from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16, 16 to 32, 30 to 64, 64 to 128. It goes on. Clear? So say when the congestion window was 64, that means it is allowed to send 64 packets together. And say when it sends 64 packet, there was a timeout. That means a packet got lost and timeout occurred. Clear? So currently the value of congestion window is 64. The current value of congestion window is 64 when the first timeout occurred. First one packet was sent, everything went fine. Then 2 packet was sent, everything was fine. Then 4 packet was sent, everything was fine. All acknowledgements arrived. Then 8 packets were sent, all acknowledgement arrived. Congestion window became 16. All acknowledgement arrived, so it sent 32 number of packets. So congestion window is now 32. All acknowledgement arrives. The congestion window now becomes 64, and it sends 64 packets, and then a packet loss occurred. So what it does is it uses a variable named as a stress, which we have written above as a stress, and the value of this variable is half of the current congestion window. What is the current congestion window where a timeout has occurred? It is 64 in this example. So the value of S stress would be 64 divided by 2. This is 32. Clear? Till now, what have happened? At the congestion window where the timeout occurred, a variable was initialized to the half of the value of the current congestion window. And after initializing this particular variable, the TCP goes into a new algorithm, a new part known as congestion avoidance algorithm. So this is the end of slow start. So what was the gist of the slow start? Start with 1, then for every RTT receive, increment the congestion window by 1. So this was the TCP slow start. Initialize with the congestion window 1, and for each segment acknowledged, increment the congestion window, resulting in an exponential increase until when the congestion event occurs. So when the congestion event occurs, initialize the threshold variable to the half of the congestion window. This other part until this will be coming very soon. Okay, now let's go into the congestion avoidance. So again, what was the sequence? Slow start begins. At the moment congestion occurs, timeout occurs. They have a value of the threshold value to be half of the congestion window. Now what happens? Let's try to understand with an analogy of a computer game. Say you are playing a shooting game where you have to shoot down the enemies. You have started playing the game, and say in the 5th minute you were shot down by the enemy. The enemy shot you down. So next time you start playing, you become careful starting from say around the 4th minute. Why do you become careful? Because last time when you played, you were killed, you were shot down by the enemy at the 5th minute. Now the next time you play, you become very careful starting from the 4th minute, because you already know that last time I was shot down in the 5th minute, so I have to be careful from the 4th minute onwards so that I would be able to tackle the enemy. Now this happens. The same manner happens in congestion avoidance. What happens is, you started with slow start, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, say at 64 there was a congestion, there was a packet loss. So the value of SS stress becomes 32, half of the congestion window. Clear? Now what is the role of congestion avoidance? Once it reaches congestion, you come back to slow start. Once it reaches congestion, there is a packet loss, there is no meaning of blasting away packets. So what the sender does is come back to slow start again. That means it again starts sending packet starting from congestion window 1. Okay, so again it first sends 1 packet, then 2 packet, then 4, then 8, then 16, and then it reaches 32. 32 is the value of this threshold value. Now at this moment, when it reaches this value 32, it knows that last time when it doubled the value of 32, when it sent 64 packets, after sending 32 packets, it entered into a congestion. That means It now knows that if it doubles the packet this time, there is a very high probability that it goes into congestion again. That means it becomes careful from this moment onward. Just like you became careful in the video game example, you became careful from the 4th minute because last time you played you were killed in the 5th minute. So you start playing carefully from the 4th minute onward. Same way in this example, you start sending packets carefully. So from this point onwards, you will not be exponentially increasing this value. This time onwards, you will be actually incrementing it linearly, not exponentially. So from this point, from this point of sending 32 packets, this increase will be linear instead of it being exponential. So this is this algorithm. So once this threshold value is reached, for every new acknowledgement, you increment the congestion value by 1 for the complete RTT. So say if I'm sending 32 packets, if I receive the acknowledgement of all the 32 packets, this time I'm not going to increment my congestion window to 64. I'm not going to double it. I'll simply increment by 1 for all the RTT received. So that means my new congestion window will become 33. It is not becoming 64. Now I am going incrementally linearly. So after 32, if I received all the acknowledgement back, my congestion window becomes 33. It does not become 64. After 33, again, it increments by a value of 1 and linearly increase. Clear? Why this linear increase? Because I cannot increase it exponentially, because if I increase it exponentially, I know that there might be a congestion and I want to avoid it. Clear? So how this TCP slow start and congestion avoidance occurs together. In reality, in every implementation of TCP, an initial congestion window and initial threshold value is set. The initial congestion window is always 1. This initial congestion window is always 1 segment. So it is the initial value of the maximum segment size. That means if the maximum segment size is say 500 bytes, that means at the beginning it sends only 500 bytes. Okay, so the initial congestion window is always 1. Or in terms of bytes, is the maximum segment size, whatever the maximum segment size is. If you are allowed to send 1000 bytes, so in the first packet you can send 1000 bytes. And a default threshold value is initialized in TCP. By default, it has a value of 65536 bytes. And depending on the number of maximum segment size, you can decide it what is the number of segments. Clear? So maybe say this depending on the maximum segment size, it may correspond to say around say 32 packets or 64 packets or anything like that. That means at the very beginning, once you start sending packets, a threshold value is already initialized. So it becomes something like this. Say the initial threshold value is initialized to be 32. Clear? So he starts from sending 1 segment, and in that segment, how much amount of data? The maximum segment size. 1 segment, 2, 4, 8, 16, and once it reaches 32, because this threshold value is already defined, the default value is already defined, from 32 onwards, it is not exponential increase, it is a linear increase. Okay, so say from 32 onwards is going, and at say 50, when the congestion window was 50, there was a congestion occurred. There is a timeout. What happens? Now the threshold value is 25. Half of this is 25. So come back to slow start. It comes back to slow start. Start increasing in exponential mode again. 1 from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16. Now after 16, if you increase it exponentially, it would be 32. But remember, the threshold value is 25. So now it cannot increase exponentially. So at this value of 16, it has to increment linearly. So it starts again linearly. Say it goes on linearly. This time it goes a long way, and say at 70, when the congestion window was 70, a timeout occurred. So it again come down to slow start. The threshold value is now half of 70, this is 35. So again it starts incrementing from one packet, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. Now after 32 you cannot go to 64 because the threshold value is 35. So after 32 it is a linear increase. So this is how TCP slow start and congestion avoidance go on hand in hand. This is an actual example. You see, it's what we have discussed. We start with one packet, then 2, 4, 6. So say initially the SS thresh was 32. Say initially the threshold value was 32. So first it increased exponentially. Once it reaches this 32, it goes on in a linearly increasing fashion. Say another timeout occurred at around this value. This congestion window is 40. So what is the half of 40? It's 20. So it again counts down to the slow start 1, 2, 4, 16 like this up to the half of this value of 40, it was 20. So at 20, when it reaches 20, it does not increase in exponential mode anymore. Now it goes in the linearly increasing mode. So this is how TCP slow start and congestion avoidance starts working. Clear? So this should be slow start and congestion avoidance. It is an ongoing phase. Slow start, exponential increase, reach the threshold, comes down to slow, it goes on linear mode. Once it reaches timeout, come to slow start again go on increasing in exponential mode. Once it reaches threshold, increase in linear mode. Again there is a congestion, a timeout, save the value of the threshold as half of the current window, come back to slow start, again go on in an exponential mode, reach threshold, increase linearly. Clear? So it's a very simple process. This is how slow start and congestion avoidance works. Now we go to the third algorithm. This is known as TCP fast retransmit algorithm. Now fast transmit is a very short and simple algorithm. It actually consists of one single line. Now this algorithm treats receiving of 3 duplicates acknowledgement as a sign of loss. So apart from timeout, it also takes receiving of 3 duplicate acknowledgement and as a sign of loss, and based on receiving of 3 duplicate acknowledgement, it takes a particular action. This action is known as fast transmit. We'll see what that action is, but before that let's try to understand why receiving of 3 duplicate acknowledgement is taken as a loss of packets. Now let's again take an example. Say the sender has sent packets from segment number 70 to 85. Okay, 16 packets. It has sent 16 packets from segment number 70 to segment number 85. And the receiver has say received up to packet 76 correctly till now, and then it has also acknowledged this particular packet. So it has received 70, 71, 72 up to 76. So it has sent an acknowledgement for packet number 76. Okay, now it is waiting for packet number 77 onwards. Say 77 was lost or it got deleted or something happened. The 77 has not arrived. It has received packet number 78. If we have followed the lectures of TCP which previously, you must understand that what the receiver will do, it will buffer this packet and then it will send an acknowledgement of packet number 76, this last correctly received packet. That means I have received 76 correctly. I might have received a packet out of order. It has received a packet out of order, packet number 78, but it has not received packet number 77. So it has sent an acknowledgement of packet number 76. Now what does this indicate? This may indicate two things. One, 77 has got lost. One, obvious thing that can happen is 77 has got lost. That's why it has received packet number 78. There may be another issue also. It may happen that packet number 77 is delayed. Remember, we're talking about packet switching internet. Say there are many routes from this source to this destination, and it may happen this packet number 77 has taken a longer route. So, and this packet number 78 has taken a smaller route, so that 78 has arrived and 77 is delayed. It may happen. Now, after some time, it receives packet number 79. It is still waiting for packet number 77. So once it receives packet number 79, it again buffers this packet number 79 and sends an acknowledgement for this packet of 76. Clear? So now the sender has an acknowledgement of packet number 76 3 times. Now, what do you think about this packet number 77? Whether it is still delayed or it has got at a higher probability of getting lost. Now assume that after some time it has received packet number 80. It is still waiting for packet number 77, and then it again sends an acknowledgement for packet number 76. Now the user has 3 duplicate acknowledgement for this packet number 76. It has already received an acknowledgement for 76, and now it has received 3 duplicate acknowledgement for this packet. When it receives 3 duplicate acknowledgement, it can be very much pretty sure that packet number 77 has got lost. When it receives the first duplicate acknowledgement, there is a probability that this packet might be delayed. That packet number 78 has been delivered out of order, 77 is delayed. Clear? It might happen. When it receives one more duplicate packet, one more duplicate acknowledgement, it may happen that one more packet has arrived out of order. That packet 77 is still delayed. But when it receives a third duplicate acknowledgement, it cannot happen. It's very rare. It cannot happen that three packets which was sent after packet number 77 has been delivered and 77 has not yet arrived. It's very, very unlikely. A packet may get delayed, but it cannot be so much delayed that 3 later packets was delivered and that packet is still in the network. This is very, very rare. So it is unlikely that the missing packet has gone so far astray from the other 3 later packets that those 3 later packets have arrived and that previous packet is still in the network. It cannot happen. So when the sender receives 3 duplicate acknowledgement, it becomes pretty sure that that particular packet was lost. Clear? So receiving of 3 duplicate acknowledgement is also taken as an indication of congestion. Now come back to this algorithm, fast retransmit. This first retransmit was created to remove the need to wait for a timeout to occur by quickly retransmitting the lost packet after 3 duplicate acknowledgement, preventing unnecessary long downtime in the transmission. That means what does this paragraph say? This point says that if the sender receives 3 duplicate acknowledgement, in the previous example it received 3 duplicate acknowledgement for packet number 76. When it receives 3 duplicate acknowledgement, it does not wait for timeout to occur. That means packet number 77 was lost. This it got confirmed when it received the duplicate acknowledgement of packet number 76 3 times. So it does not wait for the timeout of packet number 77 to go out. When it receives 3 duplicate acknowledgement, it immediately retransmit packet number 77. Why did it retransmit? Because it received 3 duplicate acknowledgement of packet number 76. It now understands that packet number 77 is definitely lost. Without bothering to wait for the timeout to occur for 77. Remember, a timeout would have occurred after some amount of time. If it did not receive the acknowledgement for 77, timeout would have definitely occurred. But it does not wait for the timeout to occur. If it has received 3 duplicate acknowledgements, it immediately retransmits. How does it help? It helps by preventing an unnecessary waiting time. That means it is not waiting for the timeout to occur. It is simply retransmitting the packet when it has received the 3 duplicate acknowledgements. Clear? So the first retransmit algorithms consist of a single line. The single line is, on receipt of 3 duplicate acknowledgements, the TCP sender retransmit the lost packet without waiting for a timeout to occur. Clear? So this is the first retransmit algorithm. After the packet is retransmitted, it sets the threshold value to the half of the current window, as it was done in case of slow start. The same manner, it sets the threshold value to the half of the current window. The current window when that 3 duplicate acknowledgement was received. Okay, now what will happen later after this we'll see. Now this first retransmit eliminates about half of these coarse grain timeouts. In the previous lecture we have seen how timeout is calculated. Remember? So waiting for timeout to happen reduces the efficiency of the network. So if the TCP implementation uses first retransmit, it actually improves the efficiency of the network. This yields roughly a 20% improvement in throughput, contrasting to use of only slow start and congestion avoidance. If I use only slow start and congestion avoidance, where every time I come back to slow start, I send packet when there is a timeout. Instead of waiting for a timeout in first retransmit, I immediately retransmit the packet when I receive 3 duplicate acknowledgement. Clear? So this is the first retransmit algorithm. So this is again a graphical representation of first retransmit. So packet was sent, acknowledgement of packet was received, packet 2 sent, correctly received the receiver, acknowledgement for packet 2 was sent, then packet 3 got lost, packet 4 arrived, acknowledgement sent, packet 5 arrived, acknowledgement sent for the previously correctly received packet, packet 6 arrived, again acknowledgement sent for the previously correctly received packet, that is packet number 2, and as soon as it receives 3 duplicate acknowledgement, it retransmits packet number 3. Imagine that the timeout was supposed to happen somewhere here. So this was the point of timeout. So if it would have been waiting for the timeout, it would have retransmit the packet 3 at this point. But it is not waiting for the timeout to occur. It has retransmitted the packet at this point where it has received 3 duplicate packets, 3 duplicate acknowledgements. Clear? Now we go to the final algorithm, TCP fast recovery. Now this is an improvement that allows higher throughput under moderate congestion. Now let's come back to the concept of receiving 3 duplicate acknowledgement and considering it as a sign of congestion. Now if the sender receives 3 duplicate acknowledgement, we have seen that it takes it as a sign of congestion. But can you think what would be the level of congestion? Is it a very high congestion, or it's a moderate congestion, or it's a low congestion? If you think it clearly, it definitely indicates a congestion because the packet is lost, but it does not indicate a very high level of congestion. Why? Because it is receiving acknowledgement. Though it is receiving duplicate acknowledgement, but it is receiving acknowledgement. That means the other side is receiving packets. That's why it is sending duplicate acknowledgement. It is sending duplicate acknowledgement because some packet has got lost, but the other side is still receiving some packets out of order, and that's why it is sending acknowledgement, and those duplicate acknowledgements are coming. That means there is some congestion, but this congestion is a moderate congestion. That means it is not a very high level of congestion. So the first recovery says that because receiving of 3 duplicate acknowledgement is a sign of congestion, but it is also a sign of moderate congestion, not a very high congestion, I as a sender need not come back immediately to slow start, because if I come to slow start, that means I am again starting from 1. I should come to 1 again when there is a very high level of congestion. But because receiving of 3 duplicate acknowledgement is a sign of moderate level of congestion, this particular algorithm says that do not go to slow start. Instead, you start from this particular value. Now what is this particular value? Now let's see, understand this algorithm. So come back to the first retransmit, the previous algorithm. So whenever it receives 3 duplicate acknowledgement, it accepts it as a sign of congestion. So now assume that the congestion window where 3 duplicate acknowledgement was received was 64. Say at 64 it received 3 duplicate acknowledgement. That means it understood that there is a congestion. So in the threshold value, it inserts the value, the half of this, it is 32. So SS trace is 32. But remember, this is not a high level of congestion. That means after entering this phase, it does not go back to slow start. What it does is, it initialize the value, or it sets the value of congestion window to be SS trace, the threshold value plus 3. Look at this expression. What is threshold value in this example? The threshold value is 64. At congestion window 64, it received 3 duplicate acknowledgement. So once it received this duplicate acknowledgement, it understood that there is a congestion, and at this point it sets the threshold value to be half of this current congestion window. It was 64, so the half is 32. Then it sends the value of congestion window to be SS trace plus 3. So this is 32 plus 3. 32 plus 3, this is 35. Why this is 30? Why this 3? This 3 is an artificial inflation of the congestion window. Remember, it has received 3 duplicate acknowledgements. That means it knows that 3 out of order packets has been delivered at the other end. That's why it takes the current congestion window as the threshold value plus 3 packets to accommodate for those 3 packets. That means it can now send 35 packets. Clear? Now, after sending 35 packets, it continues to send packets if there is data, and for every duplicate acknowledgement it is still receiving, it continues to increment this congestion window by 1. That means before it received 3 duplicate acknowledgement in this example, so the congestion window becomes 35. 32, half of this 64 plus on 3 is 35. Say it received 1 more duplicate acknowledgement. That means 1 more packet has arrived at the other end. So it increments by 1 more. So the congestion window becomes 36. Clear? Say it received 1 more duplicate acknowledgement. Now the congestion window becomes 37. That is allowed. It is allowed to send 37 packets. Now when it retransmitted the lost packet, at some point of time that packet would arrive. That means the packet which the other side was waiting for, that packet would have arrived at some point of time after retransmission. So once that packet arrived, now it will send a new acknowledgement. It would not be sending any more duplicate acknowledgement. It will send a new acknowledgement. So when it sends a new acknowledgement, the sender would stop inflating this congestion window in an artificial manner. What it does is it now sets the congestion window to be the current threshold value. The threshold value in this example was 33. So now it will not be implementing, it will not be exploiting this congestion window with an artificial value. Now it will come back to the actual threshold value, and from this value it will start working on the congestion avoidance phase. Clear? Let's take an example to make it more clear. Okay, now let's take an example to make all the things very clear, all the steps. Everything starts from slow start. Say the original threshold value, the original SS trace was 32. Say initially by default say the value was 32. Clear? So packet 1 exponential increase to packet 2, exponential increase, the congestion window becomes 4, exponential increase, the congestion window becomes 8, the congestion window becomes 16, the congestion window becomes 32. Now it reaches this value 32. So there was no timeout in between. Okay, from 32 linear increase, 33, 34, 35, like that. Say it went up to 40, and then there is a timeout. Be very specific, there is a timeout. So what happens? The SS trace becomes half of 40, 20. So the new value of SS trace is 20. What happens? Come back to slow start. Start from 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. Now from 16 it cannot go to 32 because the threshold value is 20. So from 16 onwards it is linear increase, 16 to 17, 18, 19, 20, like that. Say it went up to value 50, and at this point it received 3 duplicate acknowledgement. Clear? Now there is not a timeout, it received 3 duplicate acknowledgement. So what it does, same way, it in the threshold value it sets a value of half of 50. So the new value of threshold is 25. Because it was not a timeout, it was a receiving of 3 duplicate acknowledgements. So what will happen at this moment? At this moment it will first retransmit the lost packet. Whatever packet was lost, it will immediately retransmit. Now instead of going back to slow start, it will start from a congestion window of 25 plus 3, that is 28. So it will start from a value of 28. It will not start from a value of 1. If it was a timeout, it would have gone back to slow start and start from a value of 1, 2, 4, something like that. But now because it has received 3 duplicate acknowledgement, it has not received a timeout. So half of 50 is 25 and a 3 artificial inflation. So the congestion window is 28. Clear? Then it receives one more duplicate acknowledgement. One more duplicate acknowledgement. Clear? So then the congestion window becomes 29. That means it is allowed to send 29 packets. Say one more duplicate acknowledgement received. The congestion window becomes 30. At this point, it received a new acknowledgement. That means the receiving of duplicate acknowledgement has stopped, that retransmitted packet has arrived, and a new acknowledgement has arrived. So at this point it stops this artificial inflation and it goes back to the threshold value. What was the threshold value? The threshold value was 25. So it goes back, it sets the congestion window to 25, and from 25 it starts the congestion avoidance phase. So from 25 it will start linear increase, 25 to 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Say up, it went up till 40. And at this point 40, when the congestion was 40, it again received 3 duplicate acknowledgement. Clear? It again received 3 duplicate acknowledgement. What it would do? First, half of this value, 20, is the new value of threshold. 20 is the new value of the threshold. It immediately retransmits that lost packet, and from where it will start, 20 plus 3, 23. 23 is the new congestion window. Under duplicate acknowledgement received 24, and then it received a new acknowledgement. So the artificial inflation is stopped and it goes back to this congestion window value of 20. So it starts sending packets from this congestion window, 20 packets. In what mode? Linear increase. So from 20, 21, 22, say it went up to 30. and point number at 30, a timeout occurs. A packet loss happens. What will happen this time? The threshold value is 15. Half of 30 is 15. But because it is a timeout now, it will come back to slow start. Whenever it is a timeout, it comes back to slow start. And it starts from 1, 2, 4, 8. Once it receives 8, the next would have been 16. But because the threshold is 15, it cannot go to 16. So from the point of 8, it will go on linear mode, the constant avoidance. I guess using this example, all the scenario is very clear. Clear? I hope it should be clear. So now, after we have got through all these 4 aspects of TCP congestion control, let's take a moment to see the names of different flavors or different implementation of TCP. There are different flavors of TCP. Flavors means different implementations. One of the oldest implementations of TCP is known as TCP Tahoe. The next improvement of our TCP Tahoe, the major improvement, is named as TCP Reno. Then there is an implementation known as TCP New Reno. There is an implementation known as TCP SAC. There is an implementation known as TCP Vegas. There is an implementation known as TCP Westwood. And there are some other implementation as well. Now, what do you mean by these different implementations? Apparently, TCP has to provide a set of services. So all this implementation, all of them provide all of the set of services which we have discussed till now. All the services, reliable delivery of data, the way sequence numbers and acknowledgement numbers are used, flow control, all these services are provided. The major difference between these different flavors of TCP is the way how they handle congestion control. So the way of handling congestion control indicates the difference between these different TCP flavors. This original TCP Tahoe, it uses the first 3 techniques. The first 3 techniques means slow start, congestion avoidance, and fast retransmit. So in Tahoe, after it fast retransmit, it comes to slow start. It does not go into the first recovery mode. Whereas in TCP Reno, it deploys all these 4 algorithms. The example we saw in the previous slide, it was basically TCP Reno. So TCP Reno provides all the 4 TCP congestion control algorithms: slow start, congestion avoidance, then fast retransmit, and fast recovery. Clear? So this TCP Tahoe and TCP Reno are the most popular implementation of TCP. TCP New Reno is a more modern version of TCP Reno. It's basically handles multiple loss of packets. TCP SAC is about selective acknowledgement. It handles selective acknowledgement as well. So these are different TCP flavors, and this difference is basically how they handle congestion control. Clear? So congestion control should be very clear. Now you have to actually, this is a task, this is a work from your textbook. This particular graph is given, and from this graph there are certain questions which you have to identify, which you have to answer. If you look at this, there are a set of questions like identify the intervals of time when TCP slow start is operating, identify the intervals of time when TCP congestion avoidance is operating. So a certain number of questions based on this previous graph. Okay, what I'll do is I'll solve some of them for you. Some of these questions, not all of them, some of them I'll solve. For some of them I'll give you certain hints, but apparently you should be able to solve this by yourself, if you have understood the concept of congestion control. Now let's take the first question of this graph. The first question is identify the intervals of time when TCP slow start is operating. You have to identify the intervals. these are the transmission around. You have to identify the intervals when the TCP slow start is operating. Okay, what is slow start? It's basically starting from the sending of one single packet. So up till it arrives at the congestion avoidance phase. So this is the duration starting from packet 1, then the exponential increase up to the threshold value. From threshold value the next phase starts. This is the congestion avoidance phase. So if you look at this, starting from 1, this is the first round where it starts from 1, then 2, 4, then say this 8, 6. So up to this point, this is an exponential increase, and from this point this is linear increase. So this first part is slow start. So this is what interval is this? Say if this is 1, this is up to, say this is up to 6. So the first interval is 1 to 6. There is another interval as well. If you look at this, this is this interval. It starts from sending one packet. So 1, then 2, then 4, then 8, something like this. So this interval is from in 23. So this starts from 23 and then up to this point 26. So there are two intervals where slow start is operating. This is 1 to 6 and the other is 23 to 26. So this was the first question. The next question is identify the intervals when TCP congestion avoidance is operating. What is congestion avoidance? Linear increase. So apparently you can identify two intervals where there is linear increase. This is a linear increase phase and this is under linear increase phase. So the first interval where congestion avoidance is this interval from 6, starting from 6 up till this point, 6 to 16. So 6 to 16 is the first interval where TCP congestion avoidance is operating. Under one is this. Say it starts from 17 up to this point, 17 to 22. So from 17 to 22 there is under linear increase phase, which is the TCP congestion avoidance. So this was the second question. And the third question is after the 16th transmission round. Which one is 16th transmission round? This one is the 16th transmission round. After the 16th transmission round, is segment loss detected by a triple duplicate acknowledgement or by a timeout? That means after this point, what happens? Whether it's a timeout or whether it's a receiving of 3 duplicate acknowledgement. If you have understood the concept clearly, then the answer is very simple. This is the receiving of 3 duplicate acknowledgement. Why 3 duplicate acknowledgement? If you look at it, from this point it is not coming back to slow start. If there was a timeout, it would have come back to slow start, but it has not come back to slow start. It has started from somewhere here. That means it has received 3 duplicate acknowledgement. So it was somewhere around this point. Say it was something around 42. 42 half would be somehow around 21. Yes, 21. Then 21 plus 3. That artificial inflation. This is somewhere in 24. So if you look at it, it is here around 24. Clear? So this is clearly an example of triple duplicate acknowledgement. So the answer is triple duplicate acknowledgement. It is not a case of timeout, it is a case of receiving of triple duplicate acknowledgement. The next question is after this 22nd transmission round, is segment loss detected by a triple duplicate acknowledgement or by a timeout? Now this should be very fairly easy. Now from this it counts back to slow start. Look at this at round 22. Here something happened, congestion happened either by receiving triple duplicate acknowledgement or timeout, and then it goes back to slow start. When it goes back to slow start, that means it was a timeout. If it was a triple duplicate acknowledgement, it would have started somewhere in between. So this is purely a timeout. So the answer in this is it is a timeout. And the next question is what is the initial value of SS stress at the first transmission round? I guess I should not be answering this question. You can very clearly see what is the value of threshold, from what point this linear increase starts. So this is the value of the initial value of SS trace. Let's go to the next question. What is the value of SS trace at the 18th transmission round? Now look at this 18th transmission round. This is the 18th transmission round. Clear? You have to find out what was the value of SS trace at the 18th transmission round. This is the 18th transmission round. So what is the value of SS trace in the 18th transmission round? Can you think of it? Now, to answer this question, you may make a mistake when answering this question. So to find out the threshold value, you should see the previous part, what happened. So previously, when did a timeout occurred, or when did receiving of duplicate acknowledgement occurred? At this point. What was the congestion window at this point? The congestion window was around 42. The congestion window was 42. Okay? So wherever the congestion occurred, the threshold value is half of it. So half of congestion window is 21. Clear? So the threshold value is 21. So at this point, at this next round, what was the threshold value? The threshold value is 21. That means once it goes to this value, once it starts from 21, it enters into a linear phase. So at this 18 transmission round, the threshold value is 21. This is half of the previous congestion window where a timeout or a duplicate acknowledgement was received. So the answer of this is 21. Now let's go to the next question. What is the value of threshold at the 24th transmission round? You should do it by yourself using the same logic as the previous question. Now this is an interesting question. The question is, during what transmission round is the 70th segment sent? That means starting from segment number 1, 2, 3, 4 like this. At what round the 70th segment was sent? Can you pause for a moment and think how to proceed with this question? Now I will not solve the question directly, but I will give a hint so that you are able to solve this. Now you have to actually proceed this way. In the first round, how many packets were sent? Only one packet. So in round 1, which packet was sent? Packet number 1. In round 2, how many packets are sent? Double of that, 2 packets. So round 2, which packets were sent? 2 packets, 2 and 3. So 2 and 3. So in the first round, 1 packet was sent, that was packet number 1. In round 2, 2 packets were sent. So what were those packets? They were packet 2 and 3. In the third round, how many packets would be sent? Obviously, twice of that, 4 packets. So what was this 4 packets? 4, 5, 6, 7. Clear? So in the third round, 4, 5, 6, 7, these packets were sent. In the fourth round, how many packets? 8 packets. What were those 8 packets? Starting from 8. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 8 to 15. Clear? In the fifth round, double of that. In the sixth round, now starting from sixth round, it's a linear. So it is increment of 1. It is not an exponential increase. So you have to proceed like that. You have to see what were the packets that were sent at each round, and then by going this way, you will ultimately find at what round the packet number 70 was sent. So using this sort of steps, find out at what round the packet number, segment number 70 was sent. Clear? Now this is another question which you should solve by yourself. The question is, assuming a packet loss is detected after the 26th round by the receipt of a triple duplicate acknowledgement. This is the 26th round. This is the 26th round. You can see the current congestion window. It is somewhere here, say 8. What will be the value of the congestion window size and of SS stress? So it is a receipt of triple duplicate acknowledgement. It is not a timeout. So basically, you have to divide it by 2, and that will give you the threshold. So again, this is a very simple question. You should proceed on your own. And these are some of the additional questions on this particular graph, the same graph. Here we have used these names TCP Teho and TCP Reno. Remember, TCP Teho uses the 3 algorithms: slow start, congestion avoidance, and fast retransmit, whereas TCP Reno implements all the 4 algorithms, starting from slow start up till fast recovery. So keep that in mind while you attempt these questions. Again, they are fairly easy. If you have understood the concept, you should be able to solve these questions. Okay. So this completes our discussion of congestion control, and this also completes our discussions of transport layer. So we have discussed all the major concepts of transport layer and both the protocols of transport layer, UDP and TCP, in detail. So from next lecture onwards, we will go into the network layer and we'll discuss about the network layer and the various services associated with network layer. There are certain interesting aspects about the network layer. We'll discuss about IP addressing, we'll discuss about subnetting, we'll discuss about concepts like NAT, DHCP. Apparently, the protocol in the network layer, the IP, is basically the glue, a major part of the network of internet, of the TCP/IP stack. Remember, when we talk about the TCP/IP stack, there is a word IP. We take the word together, TCP/IP. That IP is the protocol of network layer. So we'll start with network layer in the subsequent lecture. Thank you.